Today's episode of Purple Daily, Phil Mackey, Judd Zulgad, and Declan Goff, we're going to dive into another episode of Kirk or Blank. But a quick note, if you subscribe to our podcast feed, Purple Daily, on Apple, Spotify, or scorenorth.com, we have reposted in its full form, all 2+ hours, the Vikings vent line immediately following the Minneapolis Miracle from a couple years ago. So it was myself and superstar Mike Morris that were hosting, and you can hear our reaction from the second Stefon Diggs crosses the goal line. We go live, and we took 2 hours of phone calls. If you want to relive maybe the peak moment in Vikings history because they don't have any Super Bowl wins, go check that out on the Purple Daily podcast feed, or also you can find it too on the Minnesota Sports Rewind feed. So, gentlemen, this is the second installment.
You like that?
Of Kirk or Blank. Are you guys ready for 3 more potential coin flip candidates here?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's start off with this one here. The game is very simple, and the rules are very simple here. We give you Kirk Cousins and a 3-year window, and we put him up against other quarterbacks and their next 3 years or so. So Kirk Cousins is 32 years old, an average cap hit of $32 million per year over that duration. And the comparable quarterbacks are tied to their current contracts as well, which we will give you throughout the course of this exercise. This assumes that if you would make the swap would take place before free agency. So you would get this year's free agency period to spend extra money if you were to save, let's say, $20 million or whatever it is. And then you would get the extra money for the next couple of years as well. So let's start out with this one. Would you take Kirk Cousins, 32 years old, average cap hit of $32 million, or Ben Roethlisberger, 38 years old, a little bit less money, $31 million average cap hit the next 2 years, and then a free agent once he becomes 40 years old?
So I'm exchanging 3 years of Kirk for 2 years of Big Ben, who's coming off an injury. I used to like Big Ben, but I have no clue if he's still going to be good. He
doesn't look like the type of guy that's like taking his workouts very seriously.
He cares about staying in shape about as much as I do, which is bad if you're a professional athlete. That's a definite demerit on him. It does not take me more than 2 seconds to say I would take Kirk. It's not even close. If I'm stuck with 2 years of Big Ben, who odds are probably pretty good, going to get hurt again. The salary cap hits are close. I would get the back end, at which point Ben would be gone, and I still have Kirk, but I would rather have Kirk for that. This one, probably the easiest one that we've done in this exercise. I am taking Kirk Cousins over Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's close. I think Big Ben's way over the hill, judging by what happened last year and the way he's been taking care of himself. And also, he's just, outside of football, a pretty horrible human being. And I want nothing to do with that guy on my football team. So Kirk Cousins, even though I think it does a little bit of phoniness in there, like to make fun of him a little bit, I think Kirk Cousins is the better option on and off the field for the Vikings.
Okay. So let me make a couple cases for Ben here before I make my official decision. And that, because I think a lot of people are in the same boat you guys are in terms of Ben Roethlisberger on the field, that, oh, he's old and he didn't play last year really, and he's just kind of a disaster. Well, as recently as 2017, which isn't that long ago, all right, he was the 3rd highest graded passer according to Pro Football Focus. So within striking distance of this upcoming season, he was still one of the 3 or 4 best passers in the NFL. Also worth noting, in his last full season, 2018, he did lead the NFL in total passing yards with over 5,100 yards through the air. A lot of that was opportunity. He just threw more passes than everybody else. And just because you have more passing yards doesn't mean that you're the better quarterback. So I wouldn't just immediately dismiss Big Ben. If there was a bigger gap in their contracts, if you could get Big Ben for $20 million and Kirk was making 32 and I could spend that extra money on a player, I would take Ben. Because they make about the same amount of money, you really only be saving $1 million or $2 million to the salary cap if you made this swap. I would go with Kirk Cousins.
Do you think Ben comes back and is decent in 2020, or do you think he's basically toast?
I don't think he's toast, but I think his career, he's a Hall of Famer. But Declan went over this in one of our Reddit episodes last week. That dude has had unbelievable wide receivers and just even running back weapons throughout his career. And he's, he still has Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, he still has weapons now. But I think age and Like he's not out there doing the TB12 method. All right.
And he's a huge.
Unless the TB12 method stands for T-bone, like Ben Roethlisberger. Look at that guy right now.
He's also a huge man. Like he's a big guy.
Yeah.
Who I'm guessing the wear and tear is going to soon accumulate enough that he will be toast.
I'm in the boat of like if it were a normal Vikings period where they don't have a franchise quarterback and they're looking for the veteran
factor.
Yes, I would bring him in.
Totally different.
I would totally bring him in.
Are you kidding? I'd bring in everybody.
If they didn't have a quarterback right now and it was like, all right, you can take a flyer on like a random rookie in the second round or 2 years of Big Ben.
No, that's a totally different conversation. The fun factor.
You like that? You like that?
All right, Kirk Cousins or Jimmy Garoppolo. So Kirk Cousins, again, 32 years old, average cap hit of $32 million the next 3 years. Jimmy Garoppolo, 29 years old, so 3 years younger, and an average cap hit of $27 million. So 3 years younger and $5 million less to the cap than Kirk Cousins.
I'm doing this on spec purely. I'm going Jimmy G. I'm going Jimmy G.
Wow.
And I don't know. I'm taking some risk here. But, to go back to the conversation that we had about Cousins on this same segment with 3 different quarterbacks last week, Kirk Cousins to me is a no. Like I know exactly what he can do and can't do. Jimmy G at 29, I think there's still a little unknown there coaching wise. I think there's a little bit more there. And so if I'm dropping my cap hit, gentlemen, from 32 to 27, I don't think Garoppolo is a bad QB. I don't know that he is a superstar, but I think that he's solid. And I am freeing up a decent chunk, I should say, of cap room to make moves. I'm going Garoppolo, Declan.
This is pretty close. I'm leaning towards Judd as well, where I know what I'm getting with Kirk Cousins. And Jimmy G, though, has had infrastructure around him that has been superior his entire career. He's with Belichick. He sat behind Brady for 2 years.
Great dentist.
Great hair, great jawline. Remind of anyone you know?
Such a good-looking man.
Did you just brag about your jawline? Is that what just happened right there?
I don't really have.
That's why it's good to run a podcast.
But this guy has always had great infrastructure. He sat behind Brady. Yep. He had to come in for when Brady was suspended with Bill Belichick. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan knows what the heck he's doing on offense. I mean, the guy's averaged over 8 yards an attempt his entire career. He can absolutely sling it. And I do think there's a little bit of an infrastructure that has a big say in what he's doing. But the $5 million difference and the age, and I still don't know what his ceiling is, intrigues me. So therefore, I would go with Jimmy Garoppolo, but it's very, very close, like 55-45.
Like mine's.
It's very close.
Nice work, sports son.
All right, this is an interesting one. Declan with the jawline. I think you guys are getting sucked into the magical good looks of Jimmy Garoppolo a little bit here. So,
no, it's his cap hit.
But his cap hit's not. It's not. You're not getting like a star player with the extra $5 million.
I'll take all the money I can get.
Okay, so here's where I'm at with it. His age doesn't matter to me as much because Kirk Cousins is still in his quarterback prime for the duration of this contract in this window, and maybe even for like 5 more years. So if you're telling me, all right, I'm getting a guy, and we'll do this at some point too. I'm getting Tua, who's 22 or whatever.
I'll take Tua by the way.
And he makes less money, a lot less money. Like, okay, then it's a different conversation. If it's a 29-year-old versus a 32-year-old, the age doesn't matter as much for me. Now, is there a huge jump to be made for Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't know. Like I would have said the same thing Judd did before I watched Jimmy Garoppolo against the Vikings defense in that playoff game. I thought Garoppolo was a deer in the headlights, was erratic, was panicked. And Kirk Cousins looks that way sometimes too in big games. But there was a certain deer in the headlights look on the face of Jimmy Garoppolo that made me think twice about, like, if you would have asked me this question 6 months ago, my answer would have been Jimmy. But I think Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback right now, and I'm not sure Jimmy Garoppolo, even though he has a little bit of a clutch gene to him, there's some fourth quarter comebacks there.
You're intrigued, aren't you?
I don't know that I would for sure right now take Jimmy G over Kirk.
But you're on the fence there.
No, I'm telling you, I was on Team Jimmy 6 months ago in this conversation. I'm back on Team Kirk now.
Don't you feel, though?
Kirk has great teeth too, just so you guys
Kirk does have great teeth. Don't you feel
paid for new teeth this year?
Like Garoppolo?
Not cheap.
Don't you feel like Garoppolo though has still a bit of the unknown to him, and Kirk doesn't? Like, if you could tell me that if you told me, you flat out said, Judd, I think there's another ladder for Kirk Cousins to climb or rung on it that we have not seen, I'd be like, oh, okay.
Well, I
don't feel like that's there.
I think the only rung left for Kirk, there isn't a Tom Brady rung. Like,
No,
there
of course
isn't an
not.
Aaron Rodgers rung. But I think for Kirk, there is put together your best string of play in the late months of the season. Like, I think that rung exists for him.
I think we saw it.
And
against the
Jimmy
Saints.
is, so if that's the case, Jimmy is like 2 rungs behind Kirk. So we'll
All
see.
right.
It'll all play out.
You like that? You like that?
All right, here's our last one for this one. All right.
I can't do this.
Kirk Cousins, again, 32 years old, average cap hit of $32 million. Or Sam Darnold, 23 years old. So you essentially save, a decade of age there. And you save $23 million per year in cap hit the next 2 years, an average cap hit of $9 million for Sam Darnold, and everything you could do in free agency or trade for bigger contracts, whatever that looks like. And then the third year of his contract is a 5th-year team option, or he just hits free agency if you don't exercise it. So, with that said, would you rather have Kirk Cousins and the contract and the age, or Sam Darnold the next 3 years?
I can't do this. I can't do Darnold. I can't do it. Like,
But you're
so much
all in
about-
on like the team controlled, cheaper
I know,
quarterback.
I know. But this is a guy I have never, and who knows, in 2020 might be proven wrong, but I can't remember seeing Darnold play a game either in college or the pros and thinking to myself, oh wow, there's something huge here. Something's going to take off.
Yep.
Sam Darnold, for the most part, underwhelms me. And I know the Jets have been a train wreck. And so he has basically been, by some, absolved of those sins because people are like, oh, the Jets are just a train wreck. It's not Sam's fault. But if you're really going to be a great quarterback, you at least have the perception at times with train wreck teams that you're going to take that team by the collar and lead them somewhere. And I have not seen that. And so if I make this switch, yes, I gain a ton of cash back. The issue is I don't think I've got my quarterback. I don't think I'm close. I think I'm now going to get to the 4th year of Darnold and be like, boy, exercise that 5th-year option. That's a lot of money. Probably not. So long story short, Sam Darnold, I can't do it. I am against the ordinary Zolgad judgment. I'm sticking with Kirk Cousins because Sam Darnold doesn't do much for me. Declan?
Give me Sam Darnold. And I'll tell you why.
Whoa.
I'll tell you why.
You like that? You like
Thought those
that?
were sirens.
We'll
Thought I was
see.
coming through the
I don't know.
intersection
We'll
a little
see.
bit there.
We'll see.
There's 2 reasons why this works really well. Number 1,
Sorry, it's a hot take. It's a hot take.
Are you postponed already?
It's a hot take.
Hot Take Cops is recorded on location with the men and women of sports talk. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in Hot Take Court.
so you're
Tell it
telling
to the
you're
judge.
telling me that I get a $21 million cap season for sure for at least 2020.
Could get
And
you
also-
Jadeveon Clowney. Could have got you Clowney.
Could have got you Clowney. Could have gotten another cornerback, another wide receiver, or offensive line upgrade. There's plenty of options you could use right there,
Mhm.
right? And the year 3 is when I get to decide, all right, is this the guy? And I know the first 2 years, like Judd said, have been very underwhelming. But if I know that either he's going to take a large step forward and I'm going to have him under control for the next 3 seasons, or if he's just so dog bleep bad, I can start resetting. I already had the cap savings. Give me Sam Darnold and the flexibility of what his projection is and what his contracts are, because I think it puts the Vikings in a better spot to address other big needs that they have to address.
So, all right. I think we're going to let him off with a warning here. By the way, for me, I'm taking Kirk Cousins, and I'll explain
It's a
why in a
logical
second.
take. I just can't.
Wow,
I
even that is.
can't
crazy
do
to
that.
hear.
Yeah, it's just
That's why I'm so torn right now and why I hate this segment, because I'm just so eaten up inside by Sam Darnold.
here's what I would. That sounds a little bit creepy, but let's.
Inside, I said.
Also, I don't stick my tongue down everyone's mouth. I don't get mono. I want to make that very clear.
Sam Darnold.
That was
Sam
a
Darnold did get
precursor
mono.
to what was to come, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, all right. This is where I'm at with this.
All right.
If you can find me a cheaper, younger quarterback for this 3-year window,
Yep.
that also helps the Vikings continue their playoff push in a win-now window,
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot like having Teddy Bridgewater a handful of years ago on a rookie contract, building out the rest of your roster, going 11-5. Should have won a playoff game if not for Blair Walsh, etc. I just don't think Sam Darnold is that yet. I don't think Sam Darnold. If you were to say, all right, listen, the rest of the roster, including the money that you would save by swapping the contracts, is going to be Super Bowl ready. Is Sam Darnold going to be Super Bowl ready enough? Yeah, I think he throws too many interceptions. He's too inaccurate, and he's just like the definition of the word meh.
Yep.
You
Well,
know,
that's the thing. He never takes control.
his weird bedhead avatar with like the word meh should be his Instagram profile.
I need to see quarters where you feel like he can grab a game, and that does not mean the Jets are going to be good and that they win consistently. And I don't watch a lot of Jets football, but I can't remember in prime time seeing a quarter or a half where you say to yourself, "Oh man."
Yeah. And listen,
Oh, yeah.
like could the third year be the charm for Sam Darnold?
Sure.
And if that's the case, then obviously you would make this swap so that you could save the money. But right now, Kirk is a better quarterback. Kirk gives the Vikings a better chance to win the Super Bowl, even with his contract. Like if you were to say, all right, it's Sam Darnold and we'll take the cap savings, and now all of a sudden you've got Danielle Hunter and Jadeveon Clowney as your edge rushers, does that give you a better chance to win the Super Bowl than Kirk Cousins and no Jadeveon? And it's a close conversation, but I would still go with Kirk Cousins.
I think the fair question to part of what we're doing here is this: do you think Sean Mannion might have to play? Like if Kirk doesn't get hurt, I don't feel like he's going to get benched, right? Sam Darnold, yeah, you know what? I'm afraid Sean Mannion might have to play.
Yeah, just out of performance, you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, and by the way, like, and mono, yeah.
And mono.
Mono, yeah. Well,
I don't know.
you know what? Not now. He won't.
Yeah.
How do you know?
I don't know.
Social distancing, man.
That is not prevented.
People are still using
everyone here.
Tinder.
Yeah.
Very
They're
much.
not.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not. I'm happily married.
I'm
However,
happily single. and
Wait.
yeah, it happens.
If I was single, I wouldn't use it.
wait, have you
No.
have you had a Tinder date in the last 60 days?
Not a Tinder date, no.
You've just been running your game via text
Yes.
messages.
Yes.
Okay. Just setting up for when.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What, for 2024?
I have needs, Judd.
You might want to put those on hold, baby.
You like that? You like
That's a
that?
wrap on this episode of Purple Daily. Thanks for checking us out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/scorenorth. And if you could give us a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple or anywhere you find podcasts, that would be helpful as well. And we'll see you next time.